Yeah, but it's so, let's keep going down. It's like page 45. Larry, that's yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. The time is 7:32. This is the regular meeting for August 28th. Clerk, can you please do a roll call?
Councilwoman Aaron,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss,
I'm here.
Councilman Fleming,
Here.
Councilor Rohrbach,
Here.
Councilman Soltis, Councilor Wright,
Here.
Mayor Grafstein.
I'm here. Can I please get a motion to excuse Councilman Soltis? He did give notice.
Your Honor,
Yes.
so moved.
Thank you. Is there support?
Yada.
Yes.
Support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries. He is excused. The invocation and pledge of allegiance this evening will be led by Quinn Wright. I ask you or invite you to stand if you would like. Mr. Wright, the floor is yours.
All right. As we gather here today, let us pause to honor the beauty of diversity that surrounds us. In this moment, we acknowledge and celebrate the myriad of paths that have brought each of us here. With open hearts and open minds, we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. Let us embrace the differences that enrich our lives and ensure us to learn from one another. With gratitude for the opportunity to connect, let us now begin our time together with open hearts, open minds, and a commitment to fostering an environment where every person feels valued and heard.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions this evening? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to presentations. We've got a proclamation for... We're gonna pause for a minute.
This is the quickest we've ever had a recess.
Thank you for letting me know.
It's on.
Is this better? All right. Okay, yes. All right, so are there any additions or deletions for the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on. Presentations, we have a proclamation for Patriots' Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance.
City Council is being requested to proclaim September 11th, 2023, and each September 11th thereafter as Patriots' Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance, and call upon all departments, schools, businesses in the city to display the flag of the United States at half-staff on Patriots' Day in honor of all those individuals who lost their lives on September 11th and in honor of all those employees that respond in emergency.
All right, thank you. And we will be giving this to our emergency responders, our police and fire. Next up, we have public hearings. This is a special approval, PSP 23-04, Tommy's Car Wash at 29448 John R. Road.
Special approval is required to allow an auto wash facility in the M1 Light Industrial District. The applicant proposes constructing a 4,625 square foot express car wash facility at 29448 John R. Road with 13 outdoor self-service vacuum bays and vehicular access via a modified curb cut off John R. and Dartmouth Street. Should City Council approve this request, their findings should be included with the following conditions. Resolve site plan deficiencies related to the chain link fence and outdoor self-service vacuum bays, or seek appropriate variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the landscaping plan and building elevations submitted with the site plan package shall be substantially consistent with the preliminary plans submitted with its special use application, with the exception of any required modifications placed as a condition of this approval.
All right. Thank you. So at this point, I'm going to open the meeting to the public. So this is going to be specifically for this property. If anyone from the public wishes to speak, this would be the opportunity. I ask that you go to the podium. Let's go. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Lauren Clift. I've lived in Madison Heights for about 9 years, and the senior center's a nice area. It was never quite up to par what a senior center should be, but taking all that land down, chopping those trees down, and turning it into a car wash is a sham, and you ought to be ashamed of yourselves, even thinking about it.
Thank you. Does someone else wish to speak? If you can go up to the podium, if you would like to speak, you can go up to the podium.
Hi, good evening. My name's William Gershenson. I'm with Machuris Management Development. I'm also part of the petitioner for the project, so we may get to speak again. But a couple things that I wanted to throw out there, because I know there's a lot of people here, and I know this is potentially controversial and challenging for the council members. The first is that myself, my family, and my coworkers have all had a deep experience with the city of Madison Heights. That experience has been very fruitful. We initially developed the Kmart at 12 and John R. many, many years ago. We have since redeveloped that property. At 12 and John R., we put in the BJ's Wholesale. We've also redeveloped the rest of the center, and the curb appeal, I think, looks great. And we're in the process of continuing to elevate the retail experience at that center. As an organization, we moved our corporate offices to Madison Heights. We acquired a building last year, but we moved there in the beginning, Q1 of this year. So we currently operate out of the city of Madison Heights. So we are not outsiders in that regard. We work and play here in this community the same as I'm sure many of you do here. So the opportunity to do another project in the city of Madison Heights is very special to us. On that note, I do know and feel, again, privileged that the city of Madison Heights has chosen our organization to redevelop the senior center. It's a very complicated project. Some of you may be aware of this, but the project where it sits next to the Sacra station, which has been, I think, really a point of contention for the community for quite some time. That makes it complicated to understand what we can do next to it and in and around it. In addition, the soils underneath it are contaminated, so there is a great deal of work that needs to be done to bring the property or for any new uses up to a point that it can be developed on top of. And that poses its own challenges in terms of dollars invested and in terms of types of uses we can do there, just so everyone is aware. It's my understanding that I don't think there's any universe that residential could be included in this property at any point in time because of the contamination that's on the site. We've had experts look at that, and I don't think we can clean it up to the point of being able to do that. So residential or multifamily would not be an opportunity here. In terms of the current zoning, it's currently zoned light industrial. That provides for a variety of uses, and as much as we have this innovation district that we've talked about wanting to do here to promote walkability and the like, there still will be maintained the access to the community in the back. So I know in some of the staff comments, it was communicated that that wasn't addressed on the plan, and the only reason is because the car wash was addressed, but we have had previous conversations, and I stand here today to tell you that that connectivity to the neighborhood behind will remain. A couple of the things that staff has mentioned and maybe mentioned again here regarding some of the variances that are necessary. We are prepared to go in front of the ZBA to accomplish the chain link fence. I think we can probably all hopefully agree that attractive landscaping is better than a chain link fence, but if everyone wants a chain link fence, we'll put a chain link fence up. I would like to do the opposite. And then in terms of trees, I know we talked a little bit about trees, and I completely understand your concern there. We will be replanting the trees that we are taking down. We are trying to take down as little trees as possible, but the idea that any redevelopment that happens on the site will most likely, unless it fits in the same footprint and on the same site work, involve removing some trees. So to really develop the site in a way I think that the community wants it developed will require things that I know are uncomfortable for some people. But our goal is to do it in a way that brings great uses to the city. The use that's on the table here, Tommy's Car Wash, is a best-in-class innovative car wash. They have figured out how to move people through the line in a way that decreases stacking and concerns onto John R. and in other communities for safety reasons. There, if you've driven by their facility on Woodward, it is a beautiful-looking building. So it's not just another car wash. It's really a best-in-class facility. I actually drove around, as I do many times, but again today, just to check. And within the 11-mile to 13-mile and within Stevenson to DeQuinder, there are 2 car washes contained within that area. There might be a third, one full-service wash and then one self-service wash. There are some contained south of 11 Mile on John R. The Jack's that's proposed is actually just west of Stevenson across I-75. So when we talk about the number of car washes in the community, I just want us all to think about the idea that within this area, I don't consider there to be a lot, but if you look at communities like Troy and Southfield and other communities, and you look at the number of car washes, it's not uncommon. One of the things we see, but I think we're all okay with it because we like to dine out, although I like to get my car washed, is the number of fast casual restaurants, full-service restaurants that come into the community. Anytime there's another restaurant in the community, we're never talking about whether it's okay for that restaurant to be here or not, whether we have too many. So I would just like everyone to have an open mind about that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to do the best development we can on this property, fitting into as much of the architecture, by that I mean the law, as we can. And I think we've tried to work with the city. You may or may not hear, but we've several iterations of the plan. So we're proud of what we've done here today. If there are suggestions or if there are ideas that can make this plan better, we are all ears to hear about it. We did that at the Madison Heights project across the street. We are a development partner. And so, with that, I'm just, would love the opportunity for this to be an open conversation and, something that people, have an open mind to. So with that, I thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak on this property?
Good evening, Council. My name is Steve Gunn. I'm actually the owner of the current Washpoint Car Wash in Madison Heights. I'm sure most of you have been to my establishments over the years. So I do have some questions for the Council, and I have some statements also. So I'd like to first start with a couple of my questions. Was a planned unit development sought after or to circumvent any sort of rezoning on this, since a car wash is supposed to be under a B3 and currently it's under light industrial?
So this is the opportunity for members of the public to speak to us,
Okay.
not necessarily that we're going to answer any questions.
Gotcha.
But I'm
Okay.
taking notes.
In that case then, so I'll move forward then. So doing a little bit of research on my end, I understand that the 10-year master plan for the city of Madison Heights, which was just revised a few years ago, has this area actually registered as a recreational area and under M1. So in that, like I said, once again, that it doesn't fit the criteria of a B3 establishment. Concerns obviously about that with the neighborhood. I also wanted to know if any traffic studies from MDOT have been done on this proposed site. Tommy's Car Washes, obviously I've been in the business my entire life. They process a lot of vehicles. So a Tommy's location can process up to 2,000 cars a day, which means 2,000 vehicles coming onto the property and 2,000 vehicles exiting the property in a business day. So I understand this proposed site 2 has an egress and an ingress of a right turn only. And there's also a drive-through that's also slated to be put on this site too, which those, I believe it's a coffee shop or a donut shop. I could be standing corrected on that one, I'm not sure. Did a little bit of research on that, and these types of sites could also increase another to 500 to 600 vehicles per day going through a drive-through. So you're looking at the potential on busy days, possibly up to 5,000 plus vehicles coming on and off this property through a single driveway. Which obviously could deem some traffic hazards So I understand they'll probably have signage up saying no left turns into the facilities and no left turns out of the facilities. However, people tend to do what they want to do. And you can also run into issues where people will have a tendency to turn right because they have to follow the rules, and now using other establishments further down the road as turnarounds to get back onto their track heading either south on John R. So, also, there's the bus stop situation that's located directly in front of the proposed site too, once again, adding to traffic concerns. So, those were some of my questions. However, I kind of just turned those into some statements. Back into the statements again. From what I understand, there was a memorandum back on August 16th, and there was 7 items, line items on there. And I wanted to touch base on a couple of those line items. One, like I touched on before, about it was zoned light industrial. Light industrial, is meant to be for storage units, office buildings, warehouses, these kind of things that basically create low traffic patterns, not high traffic pattern businesses like a car wash. The understanding, I didn't know this until just today, but I guess there has been some pollution under the ground. So I guess that could cause some issues. I'm putting on a condo complex or an apartment building or something along those lines there, unless the remediation of the property had been had. So that's not to say it can't be done. People remediate brownfields all the time. It just comes down to the developer and whether or not, and to the level of the remediation that has to be done. So another options that I would love to see something in there, like a splash pad for our kids, keep the parks. Our little citizens could use stuff like that. So, back again to the master plan. On page 41, it actually deems this piece of property as a park. So I wanted to understand why they would be changing over and getting rid of one of our parks and turning it into a proposed car wash, in which the city has just recently approved 3 other car washes that have yet to be built in the city of Madison Heights. Jack's Car Wash at 12 Mile and Stevenson, L Car Wash at 14 Mile and Stevenson, excuse me, and Cartwright at 13 and Alger. So basically, I'm just kind of asking why the city would need another 4th additional brand-new car wash when we already have 8 car washes currently in the city, not including car washes that are just outside our city limits in either Hazel Park or on DeQuinder in the city of Warren. Also, the city may not be aware that there are already proposed sites in the works just north of us here in Madison Heights in Troy on John R. for another proposed car wash, and to the east of us in Warren. So once again, more just, oversaturation basically of car washes in the area. So I understand I'm coming from a competitor. So, and I understand it's not your responsibility to deem what is, competition. But I do look at the council that they have to look at the overall quality of Madison Heights, and to not remove a park and not remove, the trees and the walking paths in lieu of a 4th car wash, in which we're already saturated. We're about to be extremely saturated. And like I said, I ask, for your consideration on this, moving forward on this project. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this issue?
People are just talking about trees. Aren't those memorial trees that have the placards, families paid or were gifted these trees for people who did things in Madison Heights? Are we gonna just tear those up? I mean, that doesn't, can they be, shouldn't the families have some say of, like, if they're gonna be replanted, where they would go? Well, to me, it's a little ghoulish just to rip out a tree and not care who it was put there for.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Tutt. I am now the Madison Heights and Centerline Veteran Service Officer for this area. I was hoping, this is just my opinion, that we would turn the adult center into somewhere where kids can go, where vets can go. because of course the seniors have somewhere to go, but our little babies, our teenagers, we don't have anywhere for them to go. They have to go to Troy, they have to go to Warren, they have to go to other areas. And I understand the pollution that is under it, but if we're doing something for our children, our community, we can find a way to clean it up. And that's a wonderful building to have things for them. Have lock-ins, have nights where they build activities. It's enough mental health issues going on with our children. It would be nice to have somewhere where they can run to. And it would be nice somewhere for my vets can also have health days. So instead of another car wash, wouldn't it be nice to bring something to our community where our kids can grow in it? And that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Hello, my name is Steve Gunn. That was my son over there from Wash Point Car Wash, and I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things that he said, and I hope you forgive me, I'm not a good public speaker. When we came to the city in 2004 and built the car wash south of south of 12 Mile, where the Texas Roadhouse is, there used to be a car wash. That car wash went out of business, Old Master Car Wash, and they built that restaurant. We kind of filled that void when we built another car wash. We didn't saturate the market, we didn't overextend ourselves, and no other car wash went out of business when we came in. We just added from when somebody else left. I think that's part of the problem here. You have an oversaturation, it doesn't work well for anybody. The other thing I wanted to mention is compared to restaurants. Comparing car washes and restaurants is like apples and oranges. Yes, nobody complains when a new restaurant comes in. There's a lot of variety in restaurants. You know, you can have a Thai restaurant, you can have an Italian restaurant, you can have so many different things. Car washes are quite similar, especially these car washes. They're all exterior automatic car washes with vacuums. Pretty much the model that's being built everywhere. So the similarities are not really a fair comparison. And as far as car washes go, how many do you really need? That's all I have to say.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone else wishes to speak?
Hi, I just had a couple things to say. I'm not really a good public speaker, so forgive me. My sister couldn't be here. She wants so this is like a mix of both of our comments. When you just like Google car washes in the area, this is what shows up. These are all the car washes in the area. We are way oversaturated, and I live between 10 and 11 Mile near John R. I pass by these car washes all the time, and I never really see them utilized that much. So this would really just be, in my opinion, again, more oversaturation and a waste of the people who want to build its money. So it would be a waste of their money. We all, like I said, already have multiple car washes. I barely see most of them busy or used. Me, myself, I've gone to a car wash maybe like twice my whole life and spent maybe like $5. That area could be a park. It could be a rehabilitation area for pollinators. It could be if it's zoned for business or recreation. I do remember we are trying to rezone the city in the first place, but it could be zoned for like a small walkable like coffee shop that seniors or young adults and kids could walk to. It would bring life to the area while incorporating that wildlife and while not disturbing the trees that were planted for past service members. Somebody mentioned a splash pad. In fact, there's like many other options that could bring the community together, which I know is a goal for this council, and this council has made too much progress to have it be undone by another useless car wash that it seems many citizens are disturbed by. And these are just the people who could make it. There's a lot of people on Facebook who couldn't make it who were very disturbed by this. You know, we're living in an era where people seem to be torn apart by everything, so building something that could bring the community together, where you could have, you know, the senior citizen area, you could have young adults coming in, you could have kids coming in, you could have all of them interact, I think that would be more beneficial. I don't know what it would look like, but I think anything other than something that we could all use. We're also living in an era where people are living paycheck to paycheck, and it doesn't seem like it's getting better anytime soon. We're seeing things like climate change destroying our earth. So I really feel like a car wash that would just produce a lot of wastewater, would produce a lot of runoff, would produce a lot of emissions in the area that is, again, right next to an active adult center, would be wasteful for maybe not now, but 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. That would be pretty terrible. And this waste would contribute to a worsening environment and have pollinators continue to disappear. And I think ultimately, we want to just consider what kind of future we want to live in, what kind of city we want Madison Heights to be in. Is it something that's just ultimately going to be for business where any proposal brought up is going to pass? Is it just going to be something boring and bland where you just see business after business? Or do we want something where we can all live together? Do we want something where we can benefit from? Do we want something where we can interact with one another and with nature? As for some of the other developments that were mentioned, like the BJ's Wholesale, again, I just don't feel like it would be beneficial because you pass by that. Again, I don't really see much business. In fact, I just don't see how this would be beneficial at the end of the day. We have oversaturation of many businesses that just don't seem to be doing good, where, again, this could be redeveloped into like a park. This could be redeveloped into a myriad of other things we could use. And like I said, I know a big goal for the city council is more beautification, making the city more, inviting more people into the city, just making it more pretty, making it more useful, making it something that we can all benefit from. And I really think a car wash another, in my opinion, useless car wash would undo a lot of that progress. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening? On this topic specifically?
Hi, my name is Donna Dalling. I have worked at the Active Adult Center for over 30 years. I volunteered my time there. I'm not against any improvement in the city, but like everybody said, we need another car wash like we need a hole in our head. And I hate to see the trees be torn down. Those mean a lot to people, an awful lot. And I know to somebody else they don't mean squat, but to us, the people that have lived here for 50 years, they mean a lot. And I would just like the council to think about what they're doing to our city by just tearing the trees down breaks my heart. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Rachel Isbell. I've lived in Madison Heights for 20-some years. I bought my house when I was like 23, intending to just sell it, flip it, make money, and move somewhere else, and I'm still here. So that should say something. However, I think the city is falling apart, if you want me to be honest with you. I see a lot of things changing, but definitely pulling up trees. I live across the street from Rosie's Park. They've done a ton to Rosie's Park in the past several years. That's another park that has all those dedication trees. And I'll be honest with you, I don't honestly I don't personally know anybody that knows somebody that put those trees in, but you don't take something like that out. That's like taking tombstones out or messing with things like that, unless you speak to the people who put them there. And to take them out for a car wash is again, we need another hole in our head. I'm not gonna bang that subject out. And then I just wanted to comment also, I don't understand why we need so many car washes anyway. We're in Michigan. We have like 8 months where we can wash our car without freezing up. I mean, I lived in North Carolina for a minute too, and that's all they do is wash their cars, like every other day. I get it. You get passes, you get deals, you get all this stuff, but different climate. So that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak this evening?
Hello, my name is Brian Weichel. I know we've talked about those trees a few times already today, but I just wanted to bring a couple more points to the table. there are 48 memorialized trees on that property currently, and 28 of them are currently in the part where they're going to be developing the car wash and the new coffee shop. It's important to remember that the plaque isn't the memorial, it is the tree. I've also known in the past, working in death care, that people will place their loved ones' cremains to be buried with a living tree, to be grown with the tree. Are we sure before we tear up those trees that there are no actual cremains located on those grounds? So that is something else to think about. From a legality standpoint, I have no idea what that means, but are we absolutely sure? Because have we contacted the families? I don't know if we haven't. I would like to read, I could spend all day here reading all of the different plaques that are there, but I just wanted to read two of them that really kind of touched me when I was walking through that property. Smiling, you will meet us on the tranquil shore, Edward W. Oates, from your friends, Madison Heights Senior Center, 2001. The other one, which I believe was part of the government here, in memory of Rodney McGoon, Chairman of Senior Citizens Advisory Board, donated by the Senior Advisory Board. So that's, everything else has basically been touched on here, but I just want to remind everybody that we can move the plaques to a new location and plant a new tree, but in my opinion, that's not the memorial. The plaque is not the memorial, the tree is the memorial. And some of those trees there date back from 1977. So they've been on that property, or the plaque signifies that. Some of those trees are 30 years old. So, and to plant a new tree in a different location, it just doesn't make sense to me. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening? All right. Yep.
I've lived in Madison Heights for over 16 years. I too thought we'd move in and stay for about 5 years, and now we've just stayed. I agree with all the comments that have been made today. I really don't believe that we need another car wash. And I think that there should be some points made and agreements with veterans. I really like that point. I don't know if we can move forward with that and utilize that building in a different way and or develop something else. I just like not having any more car washes. It's just too much. We're going to be inundated with cars, and we're not increasing living, we're not increasing homes, we're going to be increasing people driving through. And I know that brings other business, possibly for all the fast food that was mentioned, but it's drive-through, it's more accidents, it's more individuals that are going to be causing issues to our community. It's not anybody that's bringing a small business to the community. And if this puts other businesses out, that if people have been in the department or have been in the city for a while, what are we going to do when those businesses go out? So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening?
I'm sorry, can I go back up? I forgot the one.
You have like 30 seconds because we don't generally do twice, so just really quick.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Reading through the Facebook comments, there was a couple of questions that one of them asked on the Madison Heights site. Was some kind of contract put into place when donating? Was it assumed by the donators that the land would remain city land indefinitely when planting the trees? And were they made aware that you could sell the rights to the donations and the memorials in order to be destroyed and redeveloped? That is it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close public comment. Thank you, everyone, for your comments this evening. And with that, what is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Yes.
could we discuss the tree aspect as that is not, I believe, a part of the discussion we have to have on the special approval, as it wouldn't have any of the stipulations? Can we get an understanding or a announcement from staff as to some of the questions that were brought up and the plans for the memorial trees and plaques? Before we
Yes.
make a motion?
Yes, please.
So we were aware early on in this project, it was actually brought up by the Senior Advisory Board about the number of trees that were at the senior center. It's not just the trees there were also trees in front of the library that have been removed, as well as City Hall. They were not forever, they didn't buy the land where the trees were, they weren't forever property of the city. The city has the right to replace them if they're dead or not to put them back in that particular spot. We did think about what we could do extra. We don't have space to plant. It's almost 50 trees, actually, throughout the city anymore, because we have been very aggressive with our tree planting on city property. I'm not meaning in people's yards and those types of things. So we did design a memorial garden patio area, which you can see if you try to enter the library right now. And as part of that, we are having custom designed, and I know to the man's point, it's not a tree, but it still does memorialize the people that had the trees donated to them. Customized plaques, they're not really plaques, they're hard to describe. They're art panels of different heights that actually will go around the memorial patio, so those names can still be memorialized there. So if you want to go there, it should be a peaceful place that you can sit and reflect on your relationship with that person, or just acknowledge the names or see them there. So it is a nod to the fact that we didn't just ignore that, but there isn't any way to transplant those trees, and we don't have the spot, especially on the Civic Center land anymore, to put another like 50 trees. And that was also paid for. So we got a grant for that, so we invested in that patio, and the panels aren't up yet because they are still being custom built, but hopefully they'll be up before our grand opening on September the 18th.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bliss, did you have anything else with that? Answer it.
Your Honor, I mean, the tree thing, that's always been a significant thing for me. I mean, I myself have a memorial tree in the city for my father. I deeply sympathize with the entire situation, but I definitely want to make sure that we're very clear here in what we can and cannot do, what the intent was at the time when these trees were put up, and just very clear before we go into the special approval, because I think that is a slightly different discussion, and it's a legal discussion as it relates to the car wash. So I do want to make sure any of the points that have been addressed, that we've covered them. And it sounds like to me the only one notwithstanding, I know when we purchased the memorial tree for my father, a lot of that in there, like number one, you cannot put ashes. That is against the law. Can't do that. But the understanding is that it would be, it could potentially, like the tree could die, and it would be either replanted, removed, those kind of things. I don't know if that's something that we can relay as a part of the discussion on trees before we go into the special approval, but anything in that in the language of that purchase, because a lot of the times it's not just a memorial. The whole program, as I understand it, and it was far before my time. I grew up in the city, but I didn't make decisions 30, 40 years ago. I wasn't alive 40 years ago. But the understanding and the entire point of the project was we wanted more trees in the city, and it was a way that residents could sponsor trees, and then we could give them the opportunity for the memorial plaque and to memorialize somebody that had deep connections with Madison Heights and give them that ability. And a lot of those trees in the Active Adult Center site were folks who were deeply active in that location. And so I think what City Manager Marsh is trying to do with the relocation as a part of the plaques in the room is to emphasize that relationship, that connectivity to the Active Adult Center, and make it a part of the new Active Adult Center site, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that would be accurate.
All right. Does anyone else on council have any questions about the trees?
Only one other point, and this is separate from memorial trees, but just trees in general. While they would have to take down several of the trees, or the majority of the trees on the property, the city does have standards. They would have to replace landscaping as part of this development, and I think they actually would be planting more trees than they would be taking down. I know they're not memorial trees, but just trees in general, there would be more trees on the parcel than what would currently be removed. But that's subject to site plan.
Okay. Any other comments from council specifically about the trees right now?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'm just going to say, trees are my thing. I talk about trees all the time, and, we planted about 1,000 trees in the last few years around the city. We've done a ton of work to repopulate our tree canopy across the city. Super important. And I know that, the memorial trees in particular, that it is an emotional thing, and would, I have a memorial tree for my father-in-law in, Petoskey on somebody else's land that I can't have any control over. And I know it would break my heart if something happened to that tree, right? But it's not, like, I got permission to do it, and we were able to do it, but I can't do anything about it once it's up there. So I understand the emotion about it, and, on this council, though, what we have to do is consider both the emotional side of things and what we would love to be able to do, and our in all of that, and the legal side of things. So this conversation about the trees is we would make sure, if anything happens with this, that not only we're replacing additional trees, there's more trees going up than are coming down. And a 30-year-old tree collects more carbon than a 1-year-old tree, and we understand that. You've got the time that it takes to do that is 30 years. You can't speed that up, right? So it's like a tragic loss. But the conversation is sometimes there are things in the control and out of the control of this council. And so I'm just saying, we are aggressively working on trees and the sustainability of this city in the long run. And it would be a real shame to cut down those 30, 50-year-old trees. But it can't be our only factor that we look at in making this decision.
All right. Thank you. So sort of going off that, I don't remember if I was on council or not, but years ago, I think it was just before I came onto council, my husband's part of the men's club, and he spent a Saturday planting trees with them at Graval Park. And what he told me when they planted the trees was they were planting them in a certain way so that the thought was down the road, they might put houses there. They were planting the trees so that if there was going to be a housing development that came, the houses could go in between the trees. Now, that was something that was done a few years ago, when people were having the foresight to think about these things. And anything we're doing now, because we're also aware of this, I think that that's always part of what's happening. Where do we plant this tree? Where do we put this? What's going to happen in 10, 20, 30, 50 years? But I think when these trees initially came about, I don't know, I wasn't on council, I don't know what the thought was. But I don't know that the thought was, hey, down the road, if someone wants to do something or build something, even if you take away the car wash and everything else and just focus on the trees, if the senior center wasn't falling apart and it was going to be expanded, if somebody wanted to expand it and put something up for kids or for veterans or whatever else, or if someone wanted to come in and put up a splash pad or whatever it is, most likely, some trees are going to have to come down. It's just the way it is. And I remember years ago when the church at 12 and Stevenson, you couldn't see the church because of the old trees. And I was devastated because I went by and the trees were all gone. My thought was also, wow, what a gorgeous church that we could see for about 2 days until that got knocked down and we got a Kroger. But you know what? It's what happened. And they did plant trees, and those trees are slowly starting to grow. But it was something that in order for them to put in what they were putting in, they had to do that. And it's their private property. The church sold to whomever who put the Kroger in there. And that's what's happening with this. When we initially started talking about selling the senior center and putting something up, my thought was this would be a great place to put in a little coffee shop, a little cafe, to have something to put some kind of lofts or condos or something there. This would be a great place to do that. And that was my hope. But this has been for sale for a couple of years, and that's not what's happened here. We can tell the car wash they can't come, but we cannot make someone come. We cannot make a developer come and put in what we want. And we've been talking about this for a year. This car wash was first proposed a year ago. It was August 2022 that this was started to be talked about. And we had a public workshop in April. So that would have been a great time to have some of these comments, like while we were having the conversations. So anyways, I mean, yeah, I don't want to get rid of the trees any more than anybody else. But it's going to happen if we're going to do something there.
Your Honor?
Yes?
Sorry, when you were speaking, you also brought up a good point. I think unrelated to the special use agreement, but also important, is the history of the last 5 years of that property and its existence as a park, and the discussions and designations of putting that investment into the Civic Center project. I don't know if staff could just give the audience like both here and at home watching, a little bit of a overview of that process, because I think that'll also help inform before we get into the actual special approval discussion.
Sure. So in 2018, City Council had their first strategic planning session, and at that time, it really was a conversation about all the things in the city that we had not been able to do, because from 2008 until 2016, we were in a severe recession in Madison Heights. So throughout that entire period, well, over 10 years, we really hadn't done any renovations, basically not a lot of maintenance. We were just doing the bare minimum to keep our buildings going. And a lot of our buildings were in need of a lot of things. So in 2018, I came to City Council and asked them to consider doing a feasibility study of the senior center as well as City Hall and the library, because all of them needed to be renovated, and compare that to building new. So would it be feasible, was the question, to put an active adult center right where it is today, in between City Hall and the library, and compare that cost to building that new building to what it would cost to renovate what we currently have. The feasibility study came back, and I don't have the exact numbers for the active adult center, I just don't know overall, over $15 million to renovate what we currently had. And there were severe issues at the senior center. The foundation is sinking, for one. They did not know why, and that was just based on, this is our rough guess, it could cost you significantly more than that when you figure out what that active adult center is actually sitting on. So the cost to actually build the new plaza at the time was around $11 to $12 million. So of course, that's the option that I presented to City Council, and they unanimously approved that. We funded that $12 million. It actually ended up being 14.2 because we added Fire Station 2 to that project to really solidify our investment on the south side of the town and renovate that building that was in drastic need of improvement as well. But we funded that total project of 14.2 million through several different avenues. One of them was through a $6 million bond that we issued. We also received $3 million of ARPA funding, or the federal act money that came out during COVID. And so that brings us to $9 million. We sold the active adult center for $1.8 million. So that was $2 million of this project, and that was significant to this. And we also used fund balance. So we had been saving up money for renovations, and we do phase funding here. So for instance, this building had part of our HVAC, or our heating and cooling system, was original to this building back from 1967. So you can imagine that it also was not energy efficient. But to replace that was hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when the city has to replace something to the tune of $400,000, we'll phase fund it over a couple years. So we'll put $100,000 in the budget year one, and then basically just like you do with your savings account, you kind of save it up. So you save that up 1 year and you roll it over. The next year, save another $100,000. Third year, another $100,000. So we had that money in the fund balance that we had been saving to do all these renovations, and we used the fund balance to fill the rest of that. As I sit here today, the project is opening. We're going to have our grand opening on September the 18th. It is coming in under budget. not millions of dollars under budget. All of you know what has happened with inflation since this project started 2 years ago, but we are happily under budget on that, and it is finishing on time. But still, to the fact that the $1.8 million that we sold the Active Adult Center for was a significant part of paying for this new center, and everybody, and by everybody, I mean council, was on board with that funding mechanism at that time. So if the Active Adult Center doesn't move forward to sale, there aren't a ton of sellers in the wings. I mean, I get a lot of calls from residents about, why don't you put, a Whole Foods there, or why don't you put this there? The city can't control that part. And there aren't buyers knocking down our door to buy this parcel. So without this sale, we are going to have to come up with the $1.8 million through other avenues. I hope that answers what you wanted me to discuss. I can talk about the project all night, so I won't do that.
All right, thank you for that. Is there any other discussion regarding this?
I'm just questioning if we can continue this discussion under the question about trees at this point, or if we
Yeah,
need to have a.
Yeah, I think that we have gone way over trees, so I think we need to have a motion from council if we're going to continue the discussion. So I think we are moving into that area. We can continue discussion.
Legal agreed with you.
Okay, so.
Legal agreed that you need a motion on the
Yes.
floor to actually continue the discussion.
Yeah, so can I get a motion from council, please? What is the wish of council?
Your Honor, I have a question. Is it an option to make a motion to postpone this and have a further conversation? Because it seems very important, and we want to make sure that we take into consideration all of the sentiment of the folks that came out today, plus what we have in front of us, just to make sure that we are doing what the residents want us to do.
Your Honor?
Yeah, please.
Up to council. It's up to
We-
council if
we
that's
could-
what they want to do.
we
We
could-
haven't gotten into the substance of the special use approval at all.
Yeah, we haven't had any discussion about it. What
because
we've
we
had
don't
is we've
have
had
a
public
motion on
comment.
the floor relating to the special use approval, and we can get into all of that. And if council decides at that point that they want to postpone action, that would be up to council.
Your Honor, just to have discussion, if legal could give the language that they'd like, I would so move that motion to open up discussion.
Mr. Sherman?
Your Honor, if council wishes to approve, the motion would read as follows: motion to approve special approval request PSP 23-04 for 29448 John R. Road. The proposed use generally satisfies the special use approval review standards and criteria listed in section 10.201, based on the use being consistent with the intent of the M1 zoning district and is compatible with and no more objectionable than principal uses permitted in the M1 zoning district. The proposed auto wash is compatible with adjacent land uses and is consistent with the site's mixed-use innovation future land use designation and goals and objectives stated in the 2021 Madison Heights Master Plan. The applicant has demonstrated a need for the proposed use in the specified area of the city. The proposed use does satisfy the use-specific requirements for auto washes listed in 10.326 sub 8 of the zoning ordinance. The applicant acknowledges the need to apply to the ZBA for several variances from the specific use standards of section 10.326 sub A. Now, if council were to grant special approval, council is able to attach reasonable conditions to the special approval, and staff would want the approval contingent upon the applicant resolving site plan deficiencies relating to the chain link fence and outdoor self-service vacuum bays, or seeking appropriate variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the landscaping plan and business elevations submitted with the site plan package shall be substantially consistent with the preliminary plans submitted with this special use application, with the exception of any required modifications placed as conditions of approval.
All right. Mr. Bliss, did you want to make
Yeah.
a motion to approve that?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make the motion into what our legal counsel just said.
All right, is there support?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded, and now I invite discussion.
Your Honor, I want to first thank you, Mr. Grosjean. Did I pronounce it right? Probably. You know, many people wouldn't purchase a property knowing the defects that is on that land, knowing that there's not much more you can build. I personally have been advocating for a youth center for our children since running for council the first time. I would love to see somewhere for our children to go, to have an outlet, to play, to do some things. Nonetheless, when you look at a contaminated ground, do we really want our babies on that ground? I've heard someone mention about a park. We have parks. We're getting ready to upgrade our McGilvery Park. It's going to be a bigger and better park, you know, multi-generational. When the car wash on Stevenson first came along and they came with that bid, I voted against it because I too felt we have enough car washes in Madison Heights. Nonetheless, that allowed us to get more advances for our parks and more activities for our children. You know, so having the pickleball course and the multi-generational parks is a great idea. You know, so when we look at the property at the Active Adult Center, it's disturbing and it's heartbreaking, of course, that we have to demolish trees. But however, as Mayor Grafstein stated, whatever we put on that property, we will have to remove those trees eventually. Even because we cannot keep the Active Adult Center there. That building has to be demolished because of the poor content that it is in. So once we get to understand that, we will get to be able to realize the greater need for the city. We do not want the city to lose $1.8 million and have a land that's just there, whereas we've had buildings sitting in the city for so long. If we look at Save-A-Lot or Whole Foods or Save-A-Lot, whatever that was down there, Save-A-Lot, that closed approximately how many years ago? 5 years ago, and it's still sitting there. You know, we need to develop a city planner. If we had a planner and a developer that came into our city that wants to purchase things to build our city up, let's allow it to grow. I want everything that all of you want in this room. I want to see our kids happy. I want to see our seniors happy. I want to see our middle-aged me happy. You know, I'm not middle-aged, but I want to see all of those things. I want to see Madison Heights to be a city that's growing because we're not getting older, we're getting younger. So we need to grow. Will building another car wash bring about more competition for the existing car washes? Most certainly will. Someone mentioned that a restaurant is not, if we have more restaurants, we never complain. In Madison Heights, we have approximately 16 Asian restaurants. No one has ever said we don't need another one. We have a lot of, you know, if you go down 12 Mile, there's how many burger places? A burger is a burger. I don't care who made it. But we have multiple burger places. We have pizza places. We have gas stations on every corner. There's money for everyone to grow, and we want our city to grow, not have vacant properties sitting around, not doing anything. That's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Aaron. Does anyone else have anything to say?
Your Honor,
Yes?
can I just make a comment aside from reading the motion? And I think the city manager did an outstanding job of explaining there's a bigger picture to what we're talking about in terms of special use approval here, because we're sitting in a brand-new city hall with a brand-new active adult center and a brand-new library and a remodeled, renovated fire station number 2 in the south end. That's part of the bigger picture. And when Mr. Gershenson gets up and he says, you know, this is a very complicated project, you know, truer words have never been spoken, because the senior center site, aside from the dilapidated building, which is sinking and cannot be renovated, is a site of known contamination. It is next door to Sakura, which is a site of known contamination. And the only thing before council tonight on special use approval relates to the car wash component of that site. Now, coffee shop's been mentioned by several people during the course of the evening. That's not being proposed as another use for the senior adult center site, but there is a restaurant being proposed. That's a very interesting concept. And there's ingress and egress issues that we're tackling, and that's what makes this an extremely complicated deal. And I'm not at liberty to get into any specifics, but I can tell you that there's the possibility of a larger picture being painted in terms of what the city is trying to do by getting this property sold and applying the $1.85 million, if we can get to closing, toward the cost of what we've already built here. And I'm trying to put it, I'm just trying to put it in a context so that those of you here and those at home watching on TV will have a little bigger picture of what we've dealt with to get to this point. The property's been under contract for a long time now, and we're still not at the point of closing because there's hoops that need to be jumped through, including this special approval, in order to get there. But there's a bigger picture potentially down the road that would be of great significance to the city if all of it were to come to fruition. When you're looking at a car wash, the fact that we do have several car washes in Madison Heights, as do many cities, is a factor, but it's not the only factor that council can apply in making a decision as to whether or not to grant special approval of a car wash in a M1 light industrial zoning district, and that's the current zoning. So there's a bigger picture here that we're all dealing with and trying to move forward on.
Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Was it you? Yes, Ms. Guy.
I don't know if there's any way to show on the screen what we're talking about with some of the site plans, but, when we're looking at the overall site, it's a long site, right? It goes from 12, or John R., and it goes far back, and then it has this extra part that goes even farther back that absolutely nothing can happen to, right? It's already, it has the walking path and stuff, and like that, they can't do anything to really use that. So I think it's gonna pretty much remain the same according to the site plans. And then there's an additional portion of that back end of the lot that is pavement, that is to be removed, the pavement is to be removed, and then the area to be seeded and re-landscaped. So new green space and additional shrubs, trees, and plants will all be planted in that back area behind the car wash and other spaces. So, when we're looking at this stuff, the fact that, we can't choose what a developer, we can't choose what developer decides to purchase a plot of land. And then we can't choose what the economic, what it looks like economically in Michigan or Madison Heights in the years that they purchased that. We can't necessarily be like, we did have a conversation back when we first got some of this, like, hey, could we put something better here? We've had that conversation. We don't love the idea of a car wash. I just don't love the idea of a car wash. I don't know anybody that does. I would love to have, a veterans program. I would love to have, but the fact of the matter is it's private property and that has to make money for someone. We live in a capitalist country, right? So the property, we sold the property to someone and they have to make money on it and they get to decide how they're going to make money on it. I don't love the idea of a car wash, but, what I feel like we're trying to do now is to make the most of a situation of where we are, to make the most of what we can do for the city, the best progress that we can do, make it as good a deal as possible for the people of Madison Heights. And don't get me started, like car washes in general, you're right, you guys are right, there's too many coming in. But again, it's private property in these different things, and we can't control what they're necessarily doing in all of these different. So, there are some places that I'm like, yeah, that's a perfect place for a car wash, right? There's some places that are at, and some places I am not thrilled about another car wash. But again, there's only so much control that we have. And because this property is, under contract, and they are, the folks that have purchased it are trying to use the best land space. They are putting in all kinds of revisions to the landscaping, to the property, to make it work so that it doesn't remain an empty, vacant space that is contaminated and not useful to anybody. Like if it stays empty, nobody's gonna, we might not have anybody else want to purchase it. And then we're in debt. We have a vacant lot that is contaminated that nobody will use. And then what do we do, right? Like, the money for these other projects that people have beautiful ideas for, that we'd all love to see, has to come from somewhere. And it has to come from a developer or somebody from the outside that wants to do it, and none of those things have come to the table. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any more discussion from council?
Your Honor?
Yes.
So I want to thank everybody for coming out. And all you've heard, I think, was a lot of general support, but I think hesitation for the project. I'll just come out and say, I think this sucks. This is absolutely terrible. I've voted no on 2 car washes already this year. It seems to be the thing that just keeps coming and coming and coming into the city. I definitely think we have too many. I think that the plans that we originally had for this, I'm still kind of mourning that loss. When we underwent this project, we had discussions with the Planning Commission, detailed discussions of what that could be. You look at the mixed-use innovation designation in our master plan, a lot of that was a part of this conversation where we wanted to have a mixed use with some sorts of living quarters, whether they were apartments, condos, et cetera, and then businesses, things like restaurants, like a brewery, like those types of things. And, we've gone through this process. We've had that sale, 1.8 million, that's contingent still moving through the process as this is a part of that process. And our goals, as I understood it, was the same goals as the investor. And consistently, money kept being put in. They were doing deep due diligence, digging very deeply into the pollution at the site. And from somebody, like, I grew up 2 blocks from there. I grew up in the same house that my dad and his 7 brothers and sisters grew up in, 2 blocks away from this site. When I tell you that pretty much everybody I know has asthma or forms of cancer or things from living next to the soccer site, I know anecdotally everybody knows it too. It didn't necessarily shock me with how bad it was, the reports that we were getting, but it sucks. Because all of those goals, all the plans that we had in place, everything that we wanted just disappeared overnight. And now we're sitting here talking about a car wash that not a single person wants. But it seems to be the thing that could go into this to stop us from having to do something drastic like having to raise taxes or something to be able to cover the 1.8 million while we have an active adult center building that sits vacant. And so I hate it. And I came into tonight not knowing which way I'm going to vote. I'm probably leaning towards voting in favor of this because what other option? That type of pollution and how deep that goes and how much soil has to get ripped out in order to put anything there is tough. And I look at this plan, and it's up on the screen now, and I thank you for that. I look at this plan, and at least I'm getting a restaurant. And, it's not mixed use, but at least there's multiple things happening there. And the connectivity to the neighborhood in the back would still stay. But I'm not happy about it, and I reserve the right to change my mind as we vote. But the only thing that I think for everybody who came here and are trying to understand why a car wash, from me and my perspective, I've asked the same question now for the last 6 months. And the only answer I keep being given is the reality of that site and the difficulty building on it. So, yeah, I take solace in none of us really wants to do this. And if we do it, it's simply because that's what could go on the site right now. That's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? All right, so before I ask for a vote, I'll just sort of, my thoughts with this. I had such grand plans for this area, and my first comment when I was told they're going to put in a car wash was no. But nobody else wants it. So this is where we have to use our head and not our heart. My heart is saying, you're killing trees, you're putting in a car wash we don't need, why are you doing this? And my head is saying, because right now, we're not getting any kind of tax on this. We put this in, we're gonna be able to get taxes on something about probably $2 million. And that's gonna be able to pay for things. It's gonna be able to pay for things when people start complaining, why don't we upgrade the parks and put something there? This money can do that. You know, the trees that we all want, myself included, this is money that can go there. If we don't do this, we're going to be $2 million that's going to come from other things. And it's going to sit there empty. It's falling apart now. The city isn't going to pay someone to knock it down to have it vacant because we don't have the money to do that. So I'm going to be voting yes on this because it's what we need to do. And you know, we talk about, people will say to me, do you like being mayor? Do you like being on council? Do you like this? You know, there's got to be a lot of fun stuff. And I said, yeah, there is a lot of fun stuff. But you know what? This is what we do. We make the hard choices, and we make the choices that we think are the best for the long term. And having this as a vacant property, we have enough of them in the city. This is one we actually have control over. So I'm going to be voting yes, because I think it's the best for the city. And with that, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. And next up is meeting open to the public. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on anything. I ask that you give your name, address any affiliation with the city, address me with your comments, and keep it to 3 minutes. With that, I'm opening to the public. All right, seeing no one wishing to speak, I am going to close meeting open to the public, and we are going to move to the consent agenda. This evening, we have 3 items. First up, we have Martha Kehoe is resigning from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have the approval of the special city council meeting minutes from August 14th and from the regular city council meeting minutes of August 14th. Can I get a motion from council, please, to approve the consent agenda?
Your Honor.
Your Honor.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented, and, Your Honor, oh, sorry.
Okay, and support?
Support.
Go ahead.
Oh, what, just pick.
Okay, Mr. Wright, I'm sorry. All right, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I just want to ensure that we give a special thanks to Martha Kehoe. She's been an incredible supporter and worked so hard for many, many years, and best wishes and special thanks to her for her service to the city.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion?
Your Honor. Martha Kehoe, this was a very difficult decision for her to make. She spoke with me last week on the 16th of August prior to making this decision, and she did not want to do it. But after reconsidering, she realized that for personal reasons, this was the best decision for her. So I ask that we all applaud Martha for all of the work that she has done, not just with the Zoning Board of Appeals, but also with the Women's Center, the Memorial Day Parade. She helps out in so many different capacities. The Active Adult Center, she was a strong advocate with making that center grow and bringing in more people. Martha has been a pillar of this community for many years, and within the couple of years that I have known her, I have grown to love her, and I appreciate everything that she has done. So you know, not just, it's gonna be difficult seeing her not on the zoning board of appeals with me, but I know that I will still see her, and I want everyone to just please keep her lifted in prayer, that everything that she's dealing with, that she'll be able to get through it.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. Then we have the report. So this is the city clerk, this is the boards and commissions appointments.
Your Honor, if I
Yes.
could just note under the Arts Board, I neglected to put the expiration term date for the alternate seat. It should be 8/31/26.
Do you have a copy of this?
Yep.
Thank you. All right. So a few years ago, we changed how we were doing appointments. We used to do, as somebody would leave a board, we have a vacancy, we would appoint, and a few years ago, we changed it to be August and February, so that we do at the odd time during the year, but for the most part, all of our appointments take place in August and February. We also, last year, we started to also review what the different boards are doing, and we came up with work plans. So we're just going to go through this alphabetically, and we're going to start with the Active Adult Center. So does anyone want to make a motion for that?
Sorry, that'd be me. Sorry.
Your Honor, I can do Arts Board while we wait.
We can do that, yeah, please, Mr. Bliss.
Your Honor, I move that we reappoint our outstanding Vice Chair, Michael Covert, to the term 8/31/26, as well as appoint Sue Pop as an alternate with the term expiration 8/31/26.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries.
Your Honor, did you also want an update on the board?
I
Or are we doing that
do.
separately? Okay.
No, and we'll do an Arts Board work plan update.
Sure, yeah, everything on our work plan, we've been aggressively working towards. It's not just programs, things like, Trail Tunes coming up in a couple weeks, our pumpkin walk, all of those things, but we're also actively working with city staff to be able to create that, the grant and the opportunity for that bandstand in Civic Center Park, which was a big part of our work plan as well. So lots of good positive momentum. The board is still consistently doing great, just a lot of awesome people. And I'm excited to welcome Sue Pop aboard. Sue Pop has volunteered for us even being outside of the board. She's an artist, a very talented one at that. I have 2 of her pieces I bought at the Off the Trail event the past 2 years. I've bought pieces of hers that are hanging in my house. So excited to have a talented artist like her joining the Arts Board as well.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wright, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Francis Smith for a term of 3 years expiring on August 31st, 2026 to the Active Adult Center Advisory Board.
All right, is there support?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, the Active Adult Center Advisory Board doesn't submit a report because of the type of board they are. I just wanted to make a note of that.
All right, is there any discussion regarding this motion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. All right, motion carries. Francis has been reappointed, and yes, not every board has a work plan. That is correct. Okay, next up, we have Construction Board of Appeals. Can I get a motion from council? It can be anyone. This is,
Your Honor,
yes.
I move that we reappoint Del Lorenger to the term ending 8/31/25.
All right, is there support?
Your Honor.
Support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. The appointment is made.
Your Honor, that doesn't have a work plan, but I just want to ask staff if they could come back to us with the potential of reducing the amount of people on that board. There's just a lot of vacant openings on that.
Okay.
So.
All right, if that's something we can review, and we can take that up in February when we do appointments in February.
Perfect.
Thank you. And there is no work plan. Next up, we have Crime Commission. So these are mayor appointments, but I'm going to defer to our Crime Commission representative.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Beth Scott for an appointment for that ends 8/31/2026. Alexandra Iaquinto for the same period of time, August 31st, 2026. Peg Marionette for 8/31/2026. And that we, for the alternate, that we have Jeff Hilliard for August 31st, 2026.
All right, and I'm going to, I guess I can't actually support it, but those will be my appointments if there could be a support.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. And Councilman Flynn, can you just give us a quick recap of the work plan Crime Commission's doing?
Sure. We had the human trafficking event that happened in April 27th. And we did the bike rodeo with the police department that happened in June. And we also worked with the League of Michigan Bicyclists and SEMCOG to provide some multi-language brochures and other lights and reflectors for anybody else who wanted to get them. We have a canine demonstration in September on the 9th that's coming up. And we did work, there was going to be a survey, a forum with the police chief, but the police chief retired. But we did get part of that done where we did the work for a survey to take place for the community to do the survey. And so we're just waiting until the new police chief is situated so we do the forum at a later time.
Okay, is that?
That was on there too.
Is that the cyber crimes?
No, the cyber crimes event was dropped.
Okay, is that because the chamber did their own?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, next up we have the DDA. So this is a mayor's appointment, and we don't have a work plan. At this point, I am not going to be making any appointments. A year or two ago, DDA asked that they make the suggestions to the mayor, and at this point, we have one person who's come to a couple of meetings, but I don't think that the DDA is at this point ready to make an appointment. We're working on, as we always are, promotions. We're looking at doing some kind of fall promotion in March. We did the St. Patrick's Day, the Green Crawl, and DDA helped when we had the veteran who came through last couple months ago. So that's kind of what we're doing. It was mentioned earlier, the Save-A-Lot. That property is, they're looking to potentially sell it, but probably lease it out. So if you know anyone who wants to set up a supermarket, I think that would be a great location. So let us know, and we will hook you up with them. And that's it for the DDA. Next up is the Elected Officials Compensation Commission. Can I get a motion from council?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that council appoints Salisa Fortune-Hiley to a regular term ending 8/31/2023, or sorry, 2030, excuse me.
Great, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'll support.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, just given that this is a really long term, I'm not familiar with the applicant. I don't know if anybody on council is, but it is a pretty long term. So if anybody is, I'd love to understand.
Your Honor, if I
Yes.
may. She has served on this board previously, and this board only meets every other year to determine the compensation for the public's knowledge, the compensation of the city council members. She is the facilitator at the Solberg Tower complexes.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. For the Environmental Citizens Committee, there don't appear to be any appointments, so.
No appointments.
Councilor Rohrbach, do you want to just do a quick review of your work plan?
Sure. Working on the Sustainability and Energy Plan, Master Plan grant. And Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, we got that grant, and So now we will be able to take that and start moving forward with it as a board. The other parts that we've been working on, natural environment and ecosystems, our tree inventory, increasing on a regular basis throughout the city, continues to grow. We've had many trees planted over, I don't have a number, so I apologize, I haven't got an updated number of how many trees this year, but let's say dozens of trees planted this year throughout the city, in addition to those trees that are planted in areas that we now plant whenever a street is redone and we have to cut down the trees. Those trees are also always replanted. Additional stewardship and encouraging of native gardens in the city. We did give away 2 grants to schools, one for John Page Middle School and one for the Madison District, for, I believe it was $1,200 each to establish native gardens on their school properties, encouraging students to participate. In addition, an additional 4 residents got grants this year for native garden establishment in their, on their private property, $100 grant for each of those. So we will continue to do those. The Seed Library is up and running in the library, so everybody can come in and take a look at that. We were able to do a Arbor Day tree giveaway and celebration at the 5K this year, and we gave away 10 trees to residents, smaller size trees that they could take home in their car and plant on their own property.
All right, thank you. And up next, we have the Historical Commission. Mr. Bliss?
Yes, Your Honor. I move that we appoint Martha Covert and Jason Kowalski to the terms ending 2/28/2026.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor.
Yes.
All support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I was going to say no. Motion carries. Next up, we have the Human Relations and Equity.
Your Honor, did you?
Oh,
want me to
sorry,
update?
yeah, work plan.
It's fine.
Got 2 different screens on here.
Yeah, Historical Commission, we've been doing some pretty awesome things. The different naming and recognition of former members of council who invested decades into our community was a big thing, and that's, honestly, a huge part of what the Historical Commission is trying to do, is to educate people about the history of the city, who helped make it, why, what are all the, the stories that we can tell. And I thought part of that process that was the most exciting to me was that we got the opportunity to put up those plaques that showcased what each of those individuals actually did for the city. So when somebody looks at that name, they're not just driving by a name on a park or in a room in a library walking past or a park pavilion. You're able to actually see what that person did, the decades that they gave to the community, what they were able to do and accomplish. And so we are drafting up our, it's kind of like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. We're going to come with a short list, the naming subcommittee, myself and former Councilwoman Margene Scott. And then if any of these 2 new members would want to join that committee, we'd love to have you. But we're going to come with a short list to the Historical Commission. Historical Commission will vote on their nominations for who we would recognize for next year. And then those would go to council for the appropriate decision-making of what to name and where. But that's been really powerful. We're getting queued up to open, and we're actually going to be doing our first interactive exhibit that we've, to my knowledge, ever done as a Historical Commission. That's going to be tied into the history of music in this community and area. What is little known fact is there was a cassette tape manufacturer that was owned by Motown in the city of Madison Heights. And so quite a few of those cassettes actually were made and manufactured in the city. And so we're going to be trying to put that that together as an interactive experience. The owner of Northern Audio in Madison Heights is going to be working with us. We're still a little ways off on that, but that's a really positive thing in the direction on our work plan, because we want to bring more people into the historical museum, and we want to really allow people to understand the history of the city and where we came from, and so that's going to be big. And then Councilman Fleming is working really hard on our subcommittee that he's chairing with digitizing the records in the historical museum. A lot of the stuff is newspaper clippings, like original newspaper clippings, and if we don't digitize those things, eventually they're going to go. And since now we've had our third flood in that room, it's pretty important for us to do that. We acknowledge what we could lose, and all of these are priceless, like you'll never find them again type of items. So that digitizing is underway. It's going to be a slow process, but we're really excited to undergo that. So yeah, that's Historical Commission in a nutshell. I will also ask on this one, I won't speak again with the HREC, but it's the same thing there. Any of these commissions that have a lot of empty slots, I'd love to see them turned into like alternate, so it doesn't count against quorum. So, yes, anyway. So I'd like to see those tweaked and changed if there's not the heavy interest in joining the committee, and historical would be another one like that. We've had open slots for as long as I've been on council, and so it'd be helpful, I think, to trim that down.
Okay, thank you. And so that would be another board that we can take a look at
Yes.
when we review in February and see about reducing the number. All right, up next, Human Relations and Equity Commission. Councilor Rohrbach?
Your Honor, I move to reappoint Nicole Fox to a regular term ending 8/31/25, and appoint Sydney Larry to a regular term ending 8/31/25.
Okay, is there support?
Your Honor, support.
All right, thank you. So I am familiar with Nicole Fox, and I apologize, I did not get the backup for anyone. And so this one is a new name, the Sydney Larry. Can you?
It is. It's a new name, somebody who's new and excited to be participating in our city. Sydney is a fairly new resident in the city of Madison Heights, I think about the last year or so. They moved to the city with their partner and are wanting to contribute as much as possible. They spend a lot of time in the library, and I was able to meet them at the, at the ADA Pride event out in the park. Had a wonderful conversation, and they talked about how much they wanted to participate and to contribute back to the city. I can't put my hands on the resume or anything right now, so, but, an absolutely wonderful person that was really excited to participate, and more hands on deck for a group like this is really important.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries, they are appointed. And then the work plan.
Right, so the HREC work plan is pretty, it's broad, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the exciting stuff that we're doing. First thing on our work plan is continue the monthly book club and develop opportunities for outreach in the community and schools. The book club, it's called the Diverse Voices Book Club, has increased the circulation of the books that are put on the book club list exponentially. Like, it is a ton of people come and check these books out. I think 300 and some, maybe 360. I want to say that's wrong because it's 365, but it's somewhere around 360 times the books from the book club were checked out last year. So I don't have a new number for this year, but people really, every time those books come in, they get checked out right away. And then, so it's a good place to start. Got lots of good people, lots of good conversations happening. The HREC worked together with Madison Heights Citizens United for the 4-Point Racial Reconciliation event in May, as well as the Juneteenth flag raising and participating in the Juneteenth craft pavilion. In addition, the Advise on Council on Diversity and Inclusion Issues. So the HREC has looked at ordinance language and considered various questions with language on different forms, things like that over the last year, and continue to do so as requested or needed. Let's see, where's my last one? So, and then we're working on preparing and selling a community cookbook, so that is in process. So hopefully very soon they'll be able to submit recipes from all the cultures and all the beautiful rainbow of people who are here in the city, and we can collect it together, and then we'll be able to provide it back into the city, hopefully at the beginning of the year. So be on the outlook for that. We're also doing a lot of collaboration. There's, with different groups, we're helping put on the upcoming car show and rib competition, and we did work with the Arts Board for the Arts and Pride event. We worked together with the Arts Board and the Michigan Statewide Independent Living Council for the ADA Pride Month, celebrating artists and individuals with disabilities in the state of Michigan. That was the only place in the state of Michigan I was able to bring that here to Madison Heights, and so very proud about that. So some good work happening at the HREC.
All right, thank you. And this car show, this is on the, I believe Councilor Wright said that was on the 19th?
16th.
16th, yeah. 16th.
Saturday the 16th.
Of September?
September, yes.
Yes.
On Rosh Hashanah?
We'll have to check into that.
Okay. I can tell you that is Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
It's the highest Jewish holiday of the year that this council was made aware of last year when we almost didn't make quorum.
Your Honor.
And so I'm wondering if perhaps we can add to the work plan a multicultural calendar that I thought was discussed 3 years ago.
Your Honor, I guess it's something we can certainly check into as a part of taking a look at what we need to do to address that.
I don't even know what that means. I'm actually kind of speechless here. A month ago, Councilor Wright, in closing comments, you mentioned this and you said it was September 19th. September 19th. So when did it change? Or was that just a typo in your brain, which we all do?
No, I misspoke if I said the 19th.
Okay. So
Your Honor.
yes?
My apologies. I certainly didn't realize that that was occurring on that date, and I apologize for that oversight. We certainly invite anyone to participate or not participate in any event on any given day. This is not a requirement for anyone or any individual. So I apologize for that oversight.
Your Honor, I think, here's my point about this, being on the 16th. You talk about being inclusive on the HREC, but you're really not being inclusive to the Jewish community, because there's a ton of Jewish people that, live in the area, and you're going to be just basically not including them in the event. So that's a big issue to myself and the mayor. That's two people on council who really are not going to be able to attend, so.
Well, it's actually bigger than that.
Yeah.
Because if it was Councilwoman Aaron saying that she was hosting a library board event on this date, I would be expecting the Human Relations and Equity Commission to be jumping in and telling her, that's not a good date and this is why. So the whole purpose of this commission, as I understood it, was to review policy and to make sure that everybody feels included. And by hosting something on the highest Jewish holiday of the year, forget the fact that 2 members of council are Jewish. It excludes the entire, anyone of Jewish faith. And there's only 15 million of us in the entire world. But it's things like this that need to be addressed. So I hope when you're looking into it, what you're looking into is a multicultural calendar, because that's something that would address every single culture, and it wouldn't be an oversight the next time. And I don't know, I do have the Jewish calendar, but the calendar I have hanging in my kitchen, I bought at Hallmark or wherever, and it's got the Jewish holidays on there for everybody to see. So this isn't a huge,
Your Honor.
this is a huge oversight. And I think that your board needs to take a look at what you're doing and who you really want to include.
Your Honor, I apologize. It is
Not
an
enough.
oversight.
Your Honor,
Councilman
Councilor
Aaron?
Rohrbach or Councilor Wright, is it possible to move the date, move the event? Because to exclude a whole population from a committee that is diversified, can we move the date? Because you don't want to be exclusive of any person. So I know that you said, Councilor Wright, that you would look into it, but I believe that and if correct me if I'm misspeaking, Mayor, I believe what the mayor wanted to hear is, I apologize, but we will move that date. Not, we will look into it, and then to come back and combat and say, you can come or not come, that's very
apologize.
exclusive.
I apologize,
Okay,
Your Honor. I
so
apologize.
It's not on the calendar.
What calendar?
When I'm looking at the city calendar for events, there's something on the 19th, but that is the Tinker Tuesday, Make a Teddy Bear, and there is nothing on the 16th.
What calendar? Which calendar?
The city website calendar? City website, madison-heights.org, bottom of the page. There's events and there's meetings. Is it me?
Well, that's something that we definitely need to take a look at. I'll just speak for myself and say the reason why I said we'll definitely check into it is because we need to, just check into this. I frankly wish you would have brought this to our attention prior to today, and, there's been pushback and
What?
there's
Sorry,
been
sorry.
conversation,
Sorry,
but no.
prior to today?
Yes.
I found out about it 5 minutes ago. When we were in closing comments, your comment was, we are hosting this on September 19th.
It was in the minutes. We
That's the
supposed to put it-
16th? Or the 19th?
I believe we put in the 16th. I don't want to say I'm 100% correct.
I approved minutes that said 16th. All right, I heard 19th.
But
I
we
heard
definitely
19th.
want to
We'll have to
be
see what date
inclusive.
that was. I don't even remember what date that was that you said that in closing comments.
So I apologize for speaking about the incorrect date, but we absolutely want to be inclusive. So
We all make mistakes. We all switch our 6s and 9s. It happens. I was confused as to why it was happening on a Tuesday, but we're doing Tinker Tuesday. Tinker Teddy Bear Tuesday.
Your Honor, I think that the part of the, we got to check into it because there's several different groups that are involved in, so we can't just be like, turn it off, right?
Well,
So
hold on,
that's
it's
why-
not on the city calendar, though.
We don't post all those events on the city calendar. If you look, Trail Tunes isn't on there either. Those events are only posted city actual events, city department events, unless the board specifically, there's no way Anna can keep track of every board that you have there and every event that they have. And that is how we have defined this for many years, is this is just city department events. And then each board has their own Facebook page and their own promotions and those kinds of things. So we don't have like the Trail Tunes fundraiser they had a couple weeks ago. We don't have, there's 3 events that I know about going on the 9th and they're not listed. I mean, we could change that going forward, but that's not how we have done it traditionally.
Okay, so I'm now going to look at this other calendar. Oh, and there it is. So if I want to know what's going on with the different boards, I personally need to go through every single board's calendar because we don't actually have a group that will do this and have a multicultural calendar. Perhaps we should start a new group that does that so that people aren't feeling excluded. So is that something that could be added? Is this something that can be taken back to the Human Relations and Equity Commission, which I believe was discussed 3 years ago? It was one of the first things I thought that was going to be done, was having a multicultural calendar.
Your Honor, it was indeed discussed and worked on extensively over that first year. I think what ended up happening is the folks that were working on it were overwhelmed with because we are such a multicultural community and city and country, they were like, how many things? Like, they just got overwhelmed with it, and it got set aside for somebody else to take up, and it was not taken back up. And I think we should, this conversation is important to have, and I think we should continue to, I think the HRAC, we will definitely be talking about this next time and talk about how we missed that in our conversations and our planning. It was certainly not on purpose, and we certainly should have seen it, thought about it, talked about it, and planned around it. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, please, Mr. Fleming.
Your Honor, this is like the second mistake actually they made, because they didn't even vote on this event to begin out with, and then there had to be a second meeting called just so they could vote on it. So I have an issue with that too. You can't just have these roundtables at meetings and discuss things and not have voting on it. They have to be voted upon, or that becomes a liability of the city, that we have these events that we're planning, but no actual voting. And that's another issue that we just recently had. I'm just pointing that out.
Your Honor, if I may, these are two separate issues, and it sounds like, I think we should just focus on one at a time. The minute conversation is something that we want to bring it up. It was something that we actually had agreed on, that we had voted. There was just some ambiguity as to why it was not in the minutes. So that's why when it went back through, it was passed unanimously, because we had believed that we had voted on it, but it was not captured for folks who were reading the minutes. So we wanted to correct that error, which was an error. However, it was unanimous. It was something we were moving forward. If you look at the minutes from June, or you look at them from July, you'll see that there is a tacticity to the conversation that we have moved forward. And when we were made aware that someone had noticed that we had not voted, that we corrected it immediately, because yes, we are human, and to Councilor Rohrbach's statement, we are human and we are just trying to do our best. We are not intentionally trying to slight anyone. Me, as a black man who grew up participating in the ADL as a Childhood Dream program, I'm not trying to slight anyone in here. So that's why I said we need to check into it, and that's why I said we are I made an ambiguous statement, because our intent here is to be inclusive, not to be exclusive, and I feel like this is kind of in some way being flipped to say that we're trying to be exclusive, but we're really not. So I do apologize, as Councilor Rohrbach did. However, we need to be able to look at each other in the face and have mutual conversations. And that's all.
Fine, I would like to make sure that there is a multicultural calendar that was worked on 3 years ago. At this point in time, there are two members of the HREC who have been there since inception. They are Councilor Rohrbach and Councilor Wright. Perhaps the two of you can work on that. Yes? Is that something that the two of you can work on?
Yes.
certainly.
Your Honor,
Yes.
if it helps, Drexel University and Xavier University have multi-faith calendars that we could just, like if we just pick one and point to, and then ensure that nobody's putting events on that. Ask me about, our cloud infrastructure, and I can talk to you about what we're doing on ITAC. I'm not on the HREC. I wasn't in the discussions about putting this on. I do think, though, that apologizing to our residents and our colleagues is good. I don't think defending it is helpful. I don't think that that is, I don't think that that drives anything forward. I think it's, as Councilor Rohrbach did, apologize, we will do our best to change it, and then figure out how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again. And if we just point to one of those already, kept, like they keep it up, the Drexel one goes all the way back to like 2018. So they're gonna keep it up, and if we just make the motion to point to that, I mean, I don't know if we want to put that on a next agenda or council meeting agenda, but whatever the religious observances calendar says, and then ensuring that we don't book things on those days. And depending on what the proposal does, it would also enable us to ensure that we don't book council meetings on those days.
That's an interesting idea, but I believe that staff actually came up with a calendar for 2023, and I believe it was 2024. I'm not quite sure. I don't have it in front of me. A few months ago. So we all have that calendar. But I'm going to let the Human Relations and Equity Commission do what they see is fit and what they feel is inclusive. And I'm going to move on, because I'm going to use my brain and not my heart right now, and it is almost 9:30, a long meeting. The Information Technology Advisory Committee, Mr. Bliss.
Your Honor, just a question for the clerk really quickly. I see 2 alternates that I assume would be reappointed, and then there's 1 open full term. Is that correct?
No, there's 2 alternates currently serving, and there's 1 open seat. So the option would be to, if council chose to elevate somebody from the alternate position into the regular seat. And I just put their expiration dates.
Oh, okay, so they're not up. I don't have to reappoint them. I'm just choosing to elevate. Okay, thank you.
If you want to elevate one of them, then their expiration date.
That's the clarity. I'll make the motion to move Paul Timmons into the full-term seat expiring to 28/26 and declaring his alternate seat vacant.
Did you want to make an appointment into the alternate seat or leave it vacant?
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Your Honor,
Yes?
I don't want to go back to the HREC, but I don't think we all voted on that. I think we just had a motion and a second, but then there was a discussion and never a vote.
I think we voted on the appointments, and the discussion was during
we
the work
did?
plan, and we
Okay.
don't vote on the work plan.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. For ITAC, a motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. And do you have a work plan for ITAC? I don't see one.
No,
Okay.
we don't have a work plan,
Okay.
but we did just take the step to, we effectively serve as the board of directors as it relates to IT services now. So twice a year, we review the performance of our IT vendor with city staff, allowing all those folks in the room who do those contracts every day from both sides to help give us some, not just feedback, but also directing comments on what industry averages should be to our providers. That's brand new, newly enacted. Really excited to see how that goes.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have the Library Advisory Board.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Amanda May, Jeffrey Scott, and Jennifer Nagel to regular positions with the term ending August 31st, 2025. I would also like to move Rebecca Hill to a regular position ending August 31st, 2025, and making Nicholas Cobb as the alternate with the term ending August 31st, 2025.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Second.
All right, thank you. Is there any, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, and again, I know who Jennifer Nagel is. and I know who Rebecca Hill is, but I'm not familiar with the others. If I could just get a quick, something about them. I don't have the background.
Nicholas Cobb, he's worked with the libraries. He has a BA in psychology. And he just stated that he loves reading and
Okay.
he wanted to move forward with the library.
Okay, thank you. And Jeffrey Scott and Amanda May, they're already on?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. And now we do the work plan for the library, which we do not vote on.
Right. My work plan. Look, it's been a long evening. The library is moving along and the work plan is actually in progress, is in step. We are planning for the grand opening of the Civic Center Plaza on September 18th, which we're all looking forward to. We have a lot of ideas of how you can come into the library and get a tour of the library along with playing games and some fun entertainment that is going on. We tabled our fundraising events until next year because the whole grand opening has taken so long. So we tabled that until next year. We are doing different series that is coming in. We started our first series, which was supposed to begin in August, and it was right on spot, which is our financial literacy. So we have 4 sessions. The first 2 was well received. It was great. I really enjoyed them. Our next one is scheduled for September 6th, which is next Wednesday at 6 p.m., and we're going to be going over the Home Buyer's Guide. And then our final one will be September 20th, where we will learn how to invest money back into our community to help our community grow. After we complete the financial literacy series, we'll be doing a series on mental health, which will be held and sponsored, led by, I should say, Amanda May, who is a behavioral health therapist. So she's going to have a lot of different psychologists and psychiatrists coming in to assist. Dates to be determined. And, yeah, that's it. That's all we have going on.
All right, thank you. And next up, we have Parks and Recreation.
It's a mayor's appointment.
Okay. Would you like me to?
I'm happy to
reappoint
do
Lisa?
it. I just want to make sure.
Would you like me to reappoint Lisa Wright?
Yes.
And what about Anthony Kopecki?
Anthony Kopecki, absolutely.
All right. Then I would like to appoint those two. Councilor Rohrbach, if you would like to make the motion.
I move that council appoints Lisa Wright to a regular term ending 2/28/25 and Anthony Kopecki to a regular term ending 2/28/25.
Thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor.
Yes.
All support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. And then the work plan.
For some reason, I can't put my hands on the actual work plan, but the Parks and Rec Advisory Board main job is to ensure that the adherence to the master plan for Parks and Rec that continues to be reviewed and revised, or reviewed and advised upon. There's continued work with the Ambassador Park and the golf course and the work that's happening there. We've been reviewing and advising those. Review and advise about the Rosie's Park Pavilion location and plan there, and adherence to, I'm sorry, I already said adherence to the master plan. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board also is participating with events, particularly doing some gardening in the parks, in addition to an activity at the Juneteenth celebration. Mary Bush was kind enough to host a beautiful rock painting, rock snake. I know I enjoyed that, and I know all the children and many adults also enjoyed that as well. And one of our works on the work plan is coordinating any volunteerism that can be done in the parks. So we haven't had, as far as I know, anybody that's come in that said, hey, can you help us put this together? We would love to be able to do that. So, reaching out to myself or the parks DPS to kind of find out how we can help how the Parks and Rec Board can help with any of those volunteering services, please let us know.
All right, thank you. And then the Planning Commission, are these mayor appointments?
Yes.
They are, okay. So I would like someone to make a motion to reappoint Eric Gradinger and Grant Sylvester to the regular seats expiring August 31st, 2026, please.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that we confirm the mayor's appointment of Eric Grettinger and Grant Sylvester to the terms that both expire 8/31/2026.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. Mr. Bliss, can you just do a quick update on the Planning Commission, or do you want me to do that? We don't have a work plan.
Either or, just a lot of things in motion right now with the, all of the big ordinance revision. Basically, probably, I think almost 100 different ordinance changes are going to be all bundled together as a part of that significant work plan that we've been taking sections of and discussing throughout Planning Commission meetings over the last 2 to 3 years. That project is set to be done, I think, 3 months from now, correct? Yep, I see nodding. So about 3 months from now. And a lot of deep, detailed discussions on zoning, on standards, on some of the discussions would make your head spin. Like we had one that was so detailed on flagpoles. But those are the types of discussions that help make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's crossed, so we don't leave it so far open that somebody abuses the openness of the language. And so really great work from that entire commission. Both Eric Grettinger and Grant Sylvester are current or former officers on the Planning Commission and have served really, really well and have done just great work for us. So I truly appreciate them. Happy to have them reappointed.
All right, thank you. And Tax Board of Review, there is no one. Zoning Board of Appeals. Last one.
Oh, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to move Cassandra Berrigan into the seat term ending February 28th, 2024.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries, and you do not have a work
We
plan.
don't have a work.
So that concludes our appointments and our work plan review. Next up, we have ordinance 2195 to prohibit retail pet store sales. This is the first reading.
Yes, tonight, City Council is being asked to consider ordinance 2195, which is the prohibition of retail pet store sales. It would prohibit pet stores, persons, business entities from offering for sale, adoption, trade, barter, auction, giveaway, or otherwise transferring dogs, cats, ferrets, rabbits. This would include off-site retail sales for animals at locations other than where these animals are bred. This would not apply to persons or business entities that trade these animals where they are bred, publicly operated animal control shelters or animal protection shelters, humane societies, or animal rescue organizations. If approved on the first reading, then the second reading would be scheduled for September the 11th, 2023.
Thank you. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 2195 on first reading.
All right, is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, I brought this forward because I think we all love our furry friends and our animals that we have in the community, and we want to make sure that they are treated ethically and that they are handled properly, and we don't have situations in our city where there are instances of potential puppy mills or puppygrams and things like that, or anything of that nature. I know that this is something State Representative Mike McFarland and I talked about on Saturday in depth. This is something I know that they are talking about at the state level. However, it's not something that is germane or urgent on their agenda. But that's where we can step in at the city level and we can do something to make sure that the animals in our community that are put up for sale are treated humanely, and that we don't have instances where we do puppygrams and things like that that are not good for the animals or for our community.
Is there any other discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
I just want to note, there's a couple of different variations around the state on this type of ordinance, passed by Ann Arbor, Royal Oak, Ferndale, East Point. Not Ferndale, Fraser and East Point. They vary in the type of animals that are prohibited from being sold in the pet stores. Royal Oak has a provision in place that we use because they are next door to Madison Heights that just puts in ferrets, rabbits, dogs, and cats. Other cities also include in that provision large reptiles and long-lived birds. That's not in place as the ordinance was read today, just because we want to be consistent with the neighboring community. If you do want to include long-lived birds and large reptiles, you may want to amend that at second reading.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
Your Honor, I'd like to ask the attorney if, as far as you know, do we have any businesses in the city currently that would be affected by this new ordinance?
There's one pet store I did send code enforcement over to review, and they sell fish, small reptiles, and I believe mice type, smaller animals. But nothing in either revised as I potentially presented to you or as currently written would influence that business.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question, and just to be clear, so this is not going to impact the Madison Heights Humane Society or groups like that operating in the city?
No, there's a specific provision as well that as long as it's, for example, the city or county, public, animal, a private charitable organization, or an organization they may partner with a pet store for a short-term type adoption type event.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions,
Your
comments?
Honor.
Yes?
Yeah. I got a question about so it says here, number 5, it says that this entire section will not apply to the following, and there's a list of several types of, like a regular publicly operated animal control shelter, and a private charitable nonprofit, humane society, and so forth. So, but then when you look at the first part of it, it talks about a pet store shall not sell or transfer any live animal without providing disclosure through a certificate of origin prior to the sale of transfer. So my question is, who is going to be keeping up with this certificate of transfer of where the origin of the animal is from? And who's going to be enforcing that part?
Well, unfortunately, inspections of these types of industries are technically supposed to be through the state's Department of Agriculture, but they have decided based upon budget cuts for the last decade, they have not been doing inspections any longer. So enforcement of it would come down to us receiving a complaint from a consumer or a resident, and that would then be reviewed by either code enforcement or the police department.
All right, and then the other thing I just worry about, and I know that they're not covered by this, but my one question is, let's say that like a breeder that breeds the dogs at their home, right, not in Madison Heights, but elsewhere, and the buyer who's not in Madison Heights meet at a location in a parking lot of like Home Depot, right? Well, that won't be an issue if they're just transferring and the seller is somebody who is outside the city, who's not subjected to this law, right? Because where they're breeding at may be out of our city, and the buyer's here.
It would depend on the circumstances. The provision does acknowledge that there can't be any sales within commercial parking lots such as a Home Depot or something. So if there was a cash transaction on site and there was a complaint about that taking place, it could potentially be an enforcement issue. If it was an issue of someone just doing a transfer of property, then not necessarily that would fall into place. This differentiates in a couple different angles. One is that one restricts retail brick and mortar stores called pet stores. The other option is there's a prohibition on the sale of, you can't have a flea market or someone setting up a stand along the road selling animals. And then the final issue, which is a little more on point to what your question was, is you can't have off-site retail sales going through the city, which means that someone can't have a business like a warehouse here where they're taking online sales like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, their own website, and then transferring those animals to a consumer. So you can't have those types of direct marketing type sales going on in place. So that'd be a little more with what you were saying, that if the business is located here and they're trying to sell to people through the websites and so on, but they're not having people go into the physical retail establishment, that would be prohibited.
Well, I want to reiterate what I'm saying is if there's a breeder, right, that is breeding at their house, right, that would be covered underneath the private breeder that breeds at their home, and they make a transaction online, right, or between themselves, right, and then the transfer happens at a location here in our city, they're not going to be subjected to, a criminal misdemeanor, right?
As long as it's the breeder themselves, there shouldn't be no issue.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion?
Your Honor. So a couple years ago, I had recommended that we adopt a task force as it relates to any type of animal issues like this, of experts that, and putting somebody from our city attorney's office on there, putting somebody from our animal control on there, and really looking at what potential unintended consequences could come up on things like these. I'm a little nervous about this without having that. I'm sure the Royal Oak version of this is great, but I don't know, like, as Sean's coming up with, as Councilman Fleming's coming up with these potential issues, I'd love to have a little bit of third-party verification in our language. And so I don't know if we can get that by second reading. I'm certainly not saying that we could put the task force together by then, though I think that's something we may want to relook at. But it would be great if we could get some third-party validation in this language that we've put together. Like, are there groups, like, have we run this past the Animal Welfare Society that's been operating in the city of Madison Heights for like 2 decades? Have we run it by them? Is there anything in this that concerns them? What about, through Oakland County as it relates to animal control now? Is there anything that stands out to them as a potential issue? And I'd love to see those reports in the packet for when we pass this on second reading. Because in theory, if everything checks out, great, unanimous support, probably we all, move on with our lives. But if they catch something that could be problematic for them and an unintended consequence, I would rather catch it before we pass it than after. So I'm going to be a note tonight. I suspect it's going to move to second reading anyway. But in the interim, if we could reach out to those types of groups that we work with that have been here and get some insight as best we can. I don't know if there's unintended consequences here. It sounds like we've thought through most of them, but I just don't want to get caught with the one thing we didn't think about. And then we've got something like an Animal Welfare Society who's been here for 20 years where there's some sort of a problem that they have, or a in-home breeder that's been here for decades, or anything like that. Like, I just want to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's before we be one of like 5 cities that have adopted this. Just want to make sure we're in good spot.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Your Honor, let me just add one thing, if I
Sure,
could, to
please.
the discussion, and that is that my understanding is, with regard to the other cities that have adopted this type of ordinance, it originated with the Washtenaw County Humane Society coming up with a draft, which Ann Arbor ended up adopting, and same thing for some of the other cities. So there's a lot of similarities between the municipal ordinance that have been adopted. In addition, I want council to be aware of the fact that the state law that's being considered, which was a House bill that was approved as as our state representative McFall indicated to Councilor Wright, that it hasn't progressed yet to the Senate side. And in addition, it's got a sunset in it, so even if it were passed, I think the sunset, Tim, do you know the date of the sunset?
It is,
2025.
it's midsummer 2025. I'm not sure if it's July or June, but.
So those are just some additional points I want the council to be aware of before they vote on first reading.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion from council? All right, I'm going to be voting no on this, just because it sounds like the state is already working on this. And it is something, not exactly this, but it is something that Mr. Bliss did mention a year or two ago, to have a task force look at this, and there didn't seem to be an interest, and I guess that's why nothing happened with it. So now that there is an interest in it, perhaps we should be reaching out to other partners that may have a bit more information on this. And with that, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All against, say no.
No.
No. I believe that that was a 3-3.
3-3.
3-3.
Okay, you know what?
Let's take a roll call.
Let's do a roll call. Let's do a roll call. All right. Do a roll call, please.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
No.
Councilman Fleming.
No.
Councilor Rohrbach.
Yes.
Councilor Wright.
Yes.
Councilwoman Aaron.
No.
Mayor Grafstein.
I vote no, so then that was a 4-2 against. All right. Thank you. And that is it, and we are now going to go to closing comments, starting with Councilwoman Aaron.
Thank you, Yana. I have never sat here and my computer died. Like, I've been blank for the last
Long
2
meeting.
minutes. But anyway, very closing comments. I really don't have anything, just welcoming and thanking all the kids and praying that they all have a very safe school year this year as they return back to school, that all the teachers are safe, security, secretaries, everyone involved, from Lanphier to Madison school districts, just, a hoorah. And I know this isn't, the opportunity where we say happy birthday or congratulations or anything like that, but I want to say happy anniversary to Martha and Michael Covert, celebrating their 30th anniversary. And she has actually sat here in this council meeting with us for the last 2.5 hours on our anniversary. So just happy anniversary. And that's all I have. I'm not going to keep us any longer.
Thank you, Mr. Bliss.
Yeah, you're on that side. I did a wedding today, subbing in for the mayor. The whole council chamber was filled. I've never seen that many people. I think that's probably like my 14th wedding or so that I've done in the city, and it was very, very interesting. Like the amount of how packed it is. It just reminded me, and I stood up there and I said, it's that old adage, when love is in the house is packed. And they had that both metaphorically as well as literally. The coverts have that in spades metaphorically. Well, and a lot of dog. But really, congratulations, 30 years. That takes a lot of work. So, congratulations, and we appreciate how much time each of you donate to our city and allow. I think, frankly, that's why you got 30 years, because you each get out of the house away from each other. But I'm happy to be back and healthy. I missed so much after picking up a gnarly bug while delayed on an airplane. That was fun. But I missed a lot, not just the council meeting the last time, but I missed the Trail Tunes fundraiser. I was lucky to be able to bid from afar from the airplane. But really, really thankful to Michael Covert and everybody else who put in a lot of time and effort. I believe $1,400 was raised overall. $1,600 was raised overall going to Trail Tunes, so really excited about that. And I hope everybody can come out, the fruits of the labor of a lot of hard work of volunteers who are just frankly trying to get their lives in order and dedicate the time into building this festival that has now become a staple of Madison Heights. Come out and show your support to them, to the Arts Board, and just to live music in general on September 9th. We'd love to see you out there. Details are on the Arts Board Facebook page, but please come on out and see us on the 9th. Back to school is really special, especially since we have quite a few members of council who have kids in our school districts here, and I'm just looking across the table, a few, that's a majority, right? And so it's pretty special as that's all happening, and, we're seeing some of the decisions that we've made through the years, things like being able to put that new school officer in. It just helps, and I think having a majority of parents on council who have that type of insight, who are sending our kids to our schools, I think it makes a heck of a lot of difference in how we legislate, and I think the city's better off for it. So really appreciative of that. I want to drill down on two quick things. I wasn't here last week, so just average out the time, please. Council made the right call last week on the easement. I was at the Planning Commission meeting when we talked about that. Sending it back to the Planning Commission fit perfectly with what the intent of Planning Commission was, where they wanted to have an understanding of not just the DTE aspect, but what could go in there, how it would impact the neighborhood, how it would impact the traffic. And so sending it back to Planning Commission was the right move, and I appreciate council for making that decision. I watched it back and I was very appreciative, because had that passed there, you would have had a very angry Planning Commission, myself included. Other things like the vote we just made on the puppy mill ordinance, as I'll call it. If we can reach out to those partners, I voted no. I think I can put it back on an agenda. If we reach out to those partners and it's good, I will happily support it going forward, but I just need to know that third-party validation's happening. And then as it relates to state level, I would like to formally ask staff and my peers on council for us to send a resolution to our representatives in Lansing as it relates to road funding post I-75 construction. I saw a write-up in the paper, I think it was, I don't know if it's like a MERS News or something, where our representatives, McFall and our state senator Chang, were talking about all the great things that this I-75 expansion is and the benefits that it'll have for Madison Heights and beyond. But what they're missing, and I hope they're still thinking of, is that all of that added traffic on our roads has now made major arteries in our city necessary to have increased funding earlier than planned. We're going to have to do road construction on our roads that we're not getting any cash for, because so many people have been cutting through the neighborhood, and even big giant trucks on multi-axles. This is a big problem, and Madison Heights is not, we're going to benefit a little bit, I think, from the freeway expansion, but for the most part, we're not going to see a direct benefit in the community, but we are going to be saddled with effectively an unfunded liability in road construction that has to move up years ahead of schedule due to that expanded traffic. And so I would just like it to be put on record. I have a lot of faith in our representatives in Lansing that they will have our backs. But I do want to make sure that we have a resolution that clearly spells that out. All of these detours, all of the things that have increased so much traffic on residential roads that were not planned for that much traffic over the shortened amount of period. And let's just be very clear to them of what that's going to cost and see if we can't get any state revenue sharing or, project investment coming our way for that post the I-75 expansion. So that's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Your Honor. So we had a good discussion today about the Madison Heights motor armament smoke, and I just wanted to first clarify my statement and apologize. It feels like there are bad actors who, whenever the HRC proposes something new, push back every time. When we did Juneteenth for the first time, there was pushback. When we're trying to do this, rightfully so, we should have been more considerate of Rosh Hashanah, and that's why I said we're going to check into that, because obviously we need to make some changes. So I do apologize. However, I need for Human Relations and Equity Commission is about inclusivity, and the reason for the event was specifically to be inclusive and talk about different cultures outside of race, outside of the normal things we talk about. And if for everyone to be included, we need to change the date, then that's just what we need to do. However, at the same time, we need it to not feel like bad actors are bringing it up as a gotcha moment, but as a how can I help make this better moment. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to achieve, is teamwork and connectivity, not an opportunity to chop each other's knees or to not make things happen. I have a lot of people in my life who I love and respect from various backgrounds, and for me personally, it's kind of tough when we try to do things, be inclusive, and it's like, well, you didn't check this box, so let's dismiss it. I think we can do better to work together, and I just encourage us as a council to just come together to work together on these things, particularly on things like this puppy mill bill. I agree with what you said, Mr. Bliss, that we need a third-party verification. I think we can certainly do that. But, you know, last September, I chose not to come to the meeting on Rosh Hashanah out of respect for my Jewish friends who told me that they did not want me to come. I did not come, and then I was not excused for doing that. I was actually admonished in public for doing that. I stand with all of our neighbors, and I always will. And so if we need to change the date, we would certainly do that. But I ask that we do it in the spirit of coming together and doing what's right, and not just as an opportunity to take shots at one another. So with that, I'll yield my time.
Mr. Sherman, anything from the Attorney's Office?
Couple quick things, Your Honor. First of all, since I was last at the council table, I've been blessed to have two new granddaughters, thank you, to go with my two other granddaughters, so I'm the girl grandpa now. I tell people, you can't tell me what to do, you're not my granddaughter. And it's, you know, my daughter had a baby, her name is Lyra. My daughter-in-law and my son had a baby, her name is Summer. So parents don't have any say in the names, by the way, either grandparents don't. But everybody's doing well and just feeling very blessed. And since we're talking about Martha's today, I would like to make a comment about Martha Keogh's retirement, resigning from the ZBA. You know, you never had to guess with Martha. I've known Martha for decades. You never had to guess where she was coming from on any particular issue because she would just tell you where she was coming from. And she is, without question or doubt, she is a Madison Heights treasure. And I just wish her the best. And Martha Covert, Michael Covert, congratulations on 30 years. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mrs. Marsh?
Nothing other than the grand opening on September the 18th, which you will start seeing shortly advertised everywhere at 5:30.
Thank you. Anything from the clerk's office?
No comments this evening, thank you.
Counselor Rohrbach?
I'll just say happy first day of school to all those who celebrate. And I also want to wish my mother, Deborah Shepard, a very happy 75th birthday. She is a wonderful woman that does a lot of volunteering here in the city, so I'm proud to call her my mom. And that's all I've got tonight.
Thank you. Councilman Fleming?
Yeah, I want to thank the council for passing the resolution for the Patriots Day. As a veteran and also a supporter of our police and fire, I think it really means a lot to myself, but also those who have served on 9/11, who serve now and also in our future. I also attended the Trail Tunes silent auction. I want to thank Amori's Market for their wonderful basket that we won in the auction. And I want to thank everyone who donated their time and all the items for the auction itself. We raised a pretty good chunk of change for the Trail Tunes. In July, I had a resident who came to my office hours at the library and asked about the light at, I believe it's Barrington and 13 Mile, which was not letting pedestrians stop traffic when the light is flashing. Currently at about, I don't know what time in the evening, but it changes over to flashing. And when it's flashing, the light does not allow the pedestrians to press the signal and change it over to stopping traffic. So the Traffic Safety Board, which is part of our city, made a decision that they would make the light go until, be active until 10 o'clock at night, which is when the Civic Center Park does close. And so pedestrians, including students who are there late at night at school for band or any extracurricular activities, can safely cross the road. Let's see, the Crime Commission, along with the Madison Heights Police Department, is holding a Harco and Friends Canine demonstration on September the 9th from noon to 2 p.m. at Rosie's Park. It's going to be great. There's going to be 2 other police departments. The Royal Oak Police Department is bringing their canine, and the Hazel Park Police Department is bringing 2 other canines. So we'll have 4 canine dogs total. I also want to thank the Jewish Historical Society of Michigan about having the lecture. They had 2 lectures and a bus tour that was very informative. I appreciate everything they did for us, for being great docents and showing us a lot of things around the city of Detroit that some people weren't aware about. And then several months ago, I contacted the Oakland Community Health Network for a community resource event that would include, HUD and mental health resources, stuff like that. So that's now taking place on September the 19th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at our City Hall. And about Mayor Pro Tem Bliss talking about all the roads that need the construction. Once on September the 1st, I think is when the freeway will be open, Dartmouth will be closed. So from Gardenia to 12 miles. So you will not be able to take that road until I think it's entire month. So that's it.
All right, thank you. All right, so I've got a few things. Martha Kehoe is a treasurer in the city, and she's been on the zoning board forever, so I know with her resignation, it's because she feels she needs to, and I know she didn't take that lightly, but she is one of the big reasons that we have the Memorial Day Parade. Jean Linville, the McGillivray family, and Sean Fleming over the last few years has also been essential to that. So I just want to thank everyone who was part of that, and thank Martha Kehoe for everything that she has done for the city. I still see her with Women's Club, and I know she does her best to be active. Today is the first day of school for a lot of people. Some of them it's the first first day of school. Some of it's the first day of school. And what's interesting is the Community Coalition hosted a back-to-school event on the weekend, which was great. I got there and I was quite impressed with everyone who was there. We had Lamphere and we had Madison districts there. And I was talking to Ricky Buesler, who is one of the sponsors, and he's a realtor, and he's been extremely busy. And I said to him, who is moving to Madison Heights? And he said, it's a lot of young families, and a lot of them are coming because we have our services and because of the schools, because we do have great schools. And I think it was just yesterday, there was a house fire on Campbell in between 13 and 14 Mile, and I was just out on my bike, and I had actually biked by maybe 20 minutes earlier, and I was on 13 Mile, and police car flew down the street, second police car flew down the street, third one, and I turned around and I went to see what was going on. They were followed by 3 or 4 fire trucks, and all the residents, everyone was great, standing back, letting them do their job. But there was Ferndale, there was Birmingham, there was Hazel Park, like all our neighboring police and fire support came out to help. Sounds like no one was hurt. If you go by, you will see that. But I was talking to a few people, we were just all standing there, and this woman said to me, I hope no one's hurt, and things can be replaced. I said, you're right, and it doesn't look like anyone came out on a stretcher from where we were standing, so, I said, but this is why we did our millage MH a few years ago. She's like, absolutely, just everyone gets that, or most people get that. So I want to personally thank everyone who voted a few years ago in favor of millage MH. I don't want to pay any more taxes than anybody else does, but I looked at that and I thought, would everyone have been able to come? You know, could this have been worse if we didn't have the support that we needed? And then, of course, the MH millage was also partially responsible for the update to Fire Station 2, which had their grand opening last week. So that was great. And what was really nice with that was that there were several retired firefighters who showed up, which was great because it's not just a place where they went to work. They really formed bonds, and it was so nice to see them back. Our emergency responders are people. They're their moms, their dads, their brothers, their sisters, and they're not just the everyday heroes that we see sometimes. They also like to have fun. So I want to invite everybody Friday at Rosie's, this Friday at 5 o'clock. They are going to have their first firefighters versus police baseball game, and any money raised is going to go towards the coalition. So I invite you all to come out for that. Boards and commissions, this is always one of our longer meetings because we review the work plans and we do our appointments. It sounds like we have some boards that are waning with membership, so it probably makes sense to review those in February and see if we can cut those down a little bit for size. I do want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Bliss for covering me tonight with the wedding, and then he is also going to be taking my place on September 16th at the Chinese Cultural Center. Every year they do a Healthy Gardening Expo, and this year when they reached out to me, I said I couldn't do it because it was Rosh Hashanah. And, and they completely understood that, it's not their culture, but they get it. And I really appreciate that we have such a diverse community. I spend a lot of time over at the Islamic Community Center, the Chinese Cultural Center, the Vietnamese Association of Americans. They had their picnic a couple weeks ago at Civic Park, and they always invite me to that. It was great, lots of good food. So I think we have a very diverse group, and I really appreciate the people in the community who always make me feel welcome. I do appreciate that. This meeting has been very long. I appreciate everyone who came out tonight. It's one of our longer ones, and there's a lot of stuff that went on. This is Labor Day weekend, so please be careful with what you're doing. Don't drink and drive. Watch out for biking people walking. Kids are back at school, all that stuff. Our next meeting is going to be Monday, September 11th. Time is now 10:08, and this meeting is adjourned. Good night.